Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Tanis Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and I am joined by my co-host, Jennifer Tchaikovsky, and we have an awesome guest today, Scott Catamas. So welcome. Welcome, Scott. Would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Wow. Okay. Well,
we just jump right in here.
Let's go right there. Well, there's two caps that I wear. I'm a love coach. I created the Love Coach Academy. I've coached over 1,000 couples and families, primarily how to use compassionate communication to really connect, even when there's extreme hurt, and which happens in a lot of relationships. Mm-hmm. And I'm also the co-founder of the Global Peace Tribe that we've produced and have hosted over 500 online shows, dealing with really just about everything from UFOs and government disclosure to crop circles to environmental awareness. We have a lot of wonderful guests. Marianne Williamson, we're doing an entire evening with her next week. Okay. So those are my two caps, and I guess we'll be talking about everything under the sun, and it's great to be with both of you. I love being surrounded by two beautiful women. This is good.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, and we met through the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact because of the Global Peace Tribe stuff, which
yeah.
So that was pretty awesome. We did a great episode last month, I guess. I'm not sure how long ago it was now, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, with Bridge to the Galaxy. So you guys can check that out too if you're interested.
Yeah, since that time, last Monday, a week ago today, I hosted Danny Sheehan. We did a live event that we also broadcast to our Global Peace Tribe audience. And Danny is extraordinary. He is a true unsung hero. I mean, this is the guy who has been the lawyer for the little guy against the big guy, going all the way back to his representation of Kieran Silkwood, Daniel Ellsberg. And he's right at the center of what's really going on with UFO government disclosure, because he's now representing the Pentagon whistleblowers that are coming forward. Right. And he's working with Congress. It's pretty interesting. So I've got some interesting updates if that's of interest to you and your audience.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Do you want to do those updates first, and then we can go into our energy thing? And
if that's okay, since we just brought it up, since it's a lot, is that all right?
We just kind of go with the flow here. So.
Okay.
Yeah, well, for sure.
Briefly, Danny is extraordinary. He is a Jesuit priest, lawyer, who has been representing all the people who are really going up against the big guys. Probably most recently, he's known for being the lawyer that represented Standing Rock and the indigenous elders and tribe when that was going on. And so he now is representing several whistleblowers that have come out. And for those of you who follow the UFO thing, you've seen the videos, you've heard about it, and it's a big to-do. And what Danny shared is that most of the people within the government do want government disclosure now. Mm-hmm. For decades, the block was primarily coming from the Vatican. However, we now have a very cool Pope. And Pope Francis, who, by the way, is the very first Jesuit priest, and Danny has actually connected with, the very first Jesuit to become Pope. And Francis wants there to be disclosure with the vision of it uniting the world. And each person still honoring the religion of their choice, but, recognizing we are a human family as part of a bigger picture. So even the Vatican is on board. Wow. What's stopping it is Lockheed Martin and the other aerospace companies that are wanting to basically take the recovered craft that we do have and that they've gotten access to, get patents on all of that. And it's all about a financial thing for those guys. And they're the ones who have a huge, gigantic lobbying. And so the battle that's going on in Congress right now is between those Congress people that, like all of us, want disclosure, and those that are in the pockets of the military-industrial complex. So that's a brief little update. Of course, some of what has been documented by the military is extraordinary. They've got footage of craft coming out of the ocean and taking off. They've got hundreds and hundreds of pages, videos, documentation, all waiting to be released. So there's a little bit there for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. I know that a lot of there's a lot of talk about the crafts being actually made by us, but they're
There's that too.
ET
So
technology. So there's both, I think, that's happening.
yeah, there's both. Most
Yeah.
of the time, if you see a quote flying saucer, and especially if it comes down and it interacts with you, most of the time it's piloted by Captain John Smith, because we have reverse engineered. I mean, remember that the craft that went down in Roswell, that was in 1947. That's given us a long time to reverse engineer stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of flying saucers that are us, but there's a lot of stuff that is absolutely positively of an extraterrestrial nature that's also happening. And it really seems like they started heavily monitoring us right after Hiroshima. And once we dropped the atomic bomb, all of a sudden, hey, what's going on planet Earth? And
What
they can't be doing that. They can't do that.
crazy right. They figured out how to make atomic energy.
Yeah.
And Roswell is where the 509th Atomic Bomb Squadron was located, which was the only atomic bomb squadron in 1947. It's where the plane launched that, in 1945, that dropped the atomic bombs. And so it's not a coincidence that there was UFOs flying over Roswell. Lightning hit. That's a whole other story based on a show that I did 30 years ago with Frank Kaufman, who was the head of the CIC, the forerunner to the CIA, who was stationed in Roswell, and literally, practically on his deathbed, gave me an interview, which we posted on the television show I was producing, Strange Universe, all about his experience. But that was one of the things that they realized. Lightning hit one of the craft and went down. There were 5 beings. 4 of them died on impact, but one of them did survive. And so
is that the video that we see online of them doing this interview with ET? Because I've seen them, and there's been talk whether it's real or not. Do you feel?
Well, I'm not sure which video you're referencing.
Okay, there was one that had like what you would think a gray would look like.
No, there's no video. There's no video footage that I'm aware of that crash and the being that survived. There's a lot of fake footage of it.
That's what I wondered.
But it did happen. I've interviewed 8 former astronauts and 30 former military people way back in 1996. I did a whole documentary in Roswell with a lot of the people who were still alive that were around when that happened. Some of them had been children, including Jesse Marcel Jr. His father was the guy who had to put up the fake wreckage of a balloon and say that it was a balloon. We interviewed Jesse, his son, who talked about how hard that was for his father to get up there and openly lie. Roswell is really where it all began in terms of the reverse engineering. But there are other craft that have gone down since then that have also been recovered.
Yeah, in various countries. So
in various countries, yeah.
Yeah. So there's all over the world.
The United States really whips in there quickly. There's a wonderful documentary about a crash in Virginia, Brazil. A fabulous documentary that I didn't produce, but I've watched it. And in fact, we showed it recently at the Sunrise Center and broadcast that to our Global Peace Tribe audience, and had the director and producer of that documentary come on and talk about it. And he did a great job of really documenting what happened. And again, United States, I mean, they were in there like fast.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating field to be studying and involved in at this time with all the disclosure stuff that's coming up. We should just say hello to some of our people that we have on, because Hypnocity is finding this fascinating. So it's
Hello,
time
people.
to tell the truth. Thanks for joining us, Hypnocity. And we have Kaylee, who is Fogo Pogo, so welcome. And we have Carla. Hi, Carla. Nice to see you. Good to have you join us. And yeah, so it's fascinating, all of that, for sure. I think there's going to be a lot more that's going to come out. I mean, I work with the Galactic Federation and been told, 2026, 2027 are going to be big years for all of this. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this over the next few years.
And I think first contact is really close.
Yes.
It's really close. I'll share something that I've never shared publicly. I've shared it privately, but what the heck? I don't consider myself a psychic, but I have periodically gotten downloads that have always come true, including the death of my wife when she was only 52, had no symptoms, and 8 weeks after I got the vision, she was gone. So every now and then I get it. And for 20 years now, I've consistently gotten the download that there will be a significant event taking place in Sedona, Arizona, sometime in the next few years. I can't know when, but it's coming soon. And a lot of us will be there. And a lot of us will, and it'll be public, and it'll be a big, big, big event. So we'll see if that comes true. But you heard it publicly first on Twillow Talk.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, for sure. I think definitely we're going to be seeing a lot more coming forward. I channel Commander Ashtar. So what I've heard lately is that it's they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and so that stuff is happening. Even though it doesn't look like there's anything going on right now, there's a lot.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of stuff. So,
and I think what's most important is each and every one of us to be doing the inner work, right? Like don't just wait for it to land on the White House lawn. Tune in, connect. Whether they're angels, guides, ET influences, there are beautiful, benevolent beings available to each and every one of us through meditation, prayer, tuning in, asking for guidance. And it is important to be discerning. It's, especially when we try and make those connections through drugs, then you don't know who you're getting. But when we do it in a more clean, sober way, there's really beautiful, beautiful energies and beings available to support us, guide us, and help us in our own personal journey.
Absolutely. And I think most of us that are on here at the moment certainly tune into that on a fairly regular basis. So I understand that you have a very strong spiritual practice and stuff as well, right? In terms of meditation.
I hope so. I don't want to. It sounds funny, right? Let me say this. I work all day long as a coach with people that are mostly in crisis. I work a lot with people who are dealing with death, dying, loved ones that have cancer, they have cancer, or their marriage is falling apart, or their husband had an affair. And what I've observed is that whatever the crisis is, people that have a quality spiritual practice make it through the crisis much easier. And a spiritual practice does not have to be religious. It can be yoga. It can be martial arts. It can be playing a musical instrument. It can be just quality time in nature. Or it could be, connected to a religion or meditation. But having a spiritual practice is really important. For those of you who have a spiritual practice and are doing it, far out. For those of you who have had a spiritual practice but maybe aren't utilizing it as much, pick it back up and increase it. And for anybody who hasn't cultivated a spiritual practice, especially a lot of men had the wise disillusionment from whatever religion they were raised with. Most of us, the organized religion that we were forced to go to as kids, we recognized the hypocrisy, the bullshit. That's pretty common, not everybody, but pretty common across the board. I noticed that most women then cultivate their own spiritual practice. But sadly, a lot of men then just anything spiritual is bullshit. And this wall comes down, and I work with a lot of men like that, and it's pretty tough because they're very locked into their integrity of not being wanting to be hoodwinked, but they've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater, and instead of putting up discernment boundary, they put up a wall. So, let's bring down the wall and cultivate your own direct, authentic connection. And it can start with playing an instrument or nature.
And that's often based in fear, of course, right? Because they see something happen to somebody else, or they have an experience themselves.
Definitely. I have a very dear friend who was an altar boy and good little Catholic boy, and his father died at a really early age, and he's in his 60s, and he's still angry and believes that there is a God. It's a bad God, and probably there is no God, because if there was, how could he take my father? And whenever we start to talk about anything spiritual, that hurt little boy takes over this very intelligent man. And he's a highly intelligent man. He works in the corporate world and is paid a lot of money to help corporations do their thing. But it's so interesting watching how the hurt little 9-year-old boy comes in the moment we talk about anything spiritual.
Yeah. I'm sure you must run into some of that, Jen? Jen's a psychotherapist as well, as well as a Reiki master and a whole bunch of other energy healing modalities. So you must run into that as well, Jen.
Yeah, and it's true. I find people who have a spiritual practice, right, deepen the work that we do exponentially, comparatively. And, I've worked in the same, right, with men who go, I don't believe any of that mumbo jumbo, or I don't believe in any of your woo woo. We're not going there, kind of thing. And it's like, cool, no problem. But as we progress, they go, there's something to this. There's something beyond what the mind has that I'm tapping into here, right? And then that curiosity opens that door again, right? To recognize that, these spiritual practices, again, if we've been wounded or traumatized from a religion, can we bring that inward, right? And be able to go, okay, I don't need these external things to dictate or validate my practice. I just need to go inside and do what resonates and what's correct for me and bring that out, right? And I think that there's an empowerment that comes from that when we can recognize, yes, I've had this trauma, but going back there, if I'm doing it from a place that's authentic within me, I'm not going to traumatize myself, right? I'm going to honor myself, and I'm going to go at a pace that is good for me, that feels correct, and I can be open to that. But it takes a willingness to try again, right? And to learn to trust yourself in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing too for the transits that we're in right now. It's amazing to see themes, right? As they show up.
They always show up, right?
They always show up.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if, I even talking to clients today, there's a lot of people who over this weekend have felt some transitions happening, right? And so the 27th, we shifted into the 24th gate, and that's the gate of returning, right? And so this is about, the mind, but also getting out of the mind, right? The shadow aspect here is the shadow of addiction. It's about that circle thinking, right? Getting really caught up in the mind and the mind's narratives and the mind's beliefs. And what happens is the victimhood of these addictive tendencies can cause us to be frozen, cause a lot of anxiety, right? There's this kind of fear of ignorance that either causes inaction or causes this anxious response that we get into this place of we're so crowded in our mind right? How do we move through that, to get to this siddhi, this enlightened state of silence, right? What does that mean? And so, Richard talks about the gift of invention and how that moves us through from this addictive process in the mind to being able to really embrace silence, which anybody who's experienced pure silence knows that's way more addictive in many ways than the spiraling of the mind, right? But it's about taking that circled thinking and being able to move it into the spiral,
Mm.
right? And expanding it and opening it and constantly allowing it to come to another level until it just opens, right? And in that moment, we go, I can find the gap. I can find those in between places to rest. And that's what I can embody. And as I do that, I exit the wheel, right? Because now I'm in higher mind and that can connect down, right? And I can connect up. And we have this kind of relationship that now allows us to take all of these things that are cycling through the mind and bring it through the body and the awareness centers that we have so that we can really feel the truth of it and not figure out the truth of it.
Mm.
Right? And that's the energy that we're in right now. So it's a really important time to recognize what we're talking about, right? How the mind, can have these experiences, these traumas, and it can shut us off. It can just say, that's it, I'm done, right? I don't want to be open to that. But we're also in a time that allows for a very deep awareness and opening if we're able to just kind of break that pattern, right?
And I'd love to. And what is kind of the astrological? Is there can you describe which planets are where or which transits are where? That's part of what you're describing because it resonates a lot with what I'm experiencing and especially what I'm hearing from my clients.
Yeah. So when I talk about the transits, at least for this, I'm talking specifically about the sun and the placement of the sun in the 64 gates of the I Ching. So we could look at all of the transits, and there's so much power in every single one of them. But in human design, the idea is that what we call neutrinos, the energy that comes from space into us, that is always passing through us, the sun is about 70% of that energy. So what is going on with the sun is going to be the greatest impact for us at any given moment. So when I'm talking about the transits on here, it's the energy that is the greatest influence that we face during this time period. And that's every 6 days that's shifting. And we go through the whole wheel throughout the year.
And of course, being in this 11 year with all the extra solar flares, that's certainly creating a bigger influence with all of that energy as well. So we've had 2 M-class solar storms in the last 24 hours. And we've had a lot more this week than we did the week before. We had solar flares that have been quite high over the last 3 months. And they seem to really fluctuate a fair bit. We're going to be going into more, I think, in the near future. These, of course, also affect the Schumann resonance, Earth's vibration. Today we're up in around, actually, let me just pull that up, because we are in, just checking, 75. We're at 75 today at this point. We've been quite a bit lower, actually, for the last few days, and it was down in around 10, 12, and it's zoomed right back up again to 75. So we're experiencing a lot more of that. And of course, when there's fluctuations in our earth vibration, it shakes us all up and all of that stuff comes out. So we end up with more of that kind of anxiety that you were talking about, Jen, coming up for people. Have you noticed that kind of thing, Scott, with your clients? That sort of more anxiety, more unease?
Yeah, I have to say I've noticed the increase in anxiety for me has been more associated with what's happening in the Middle East.
Yes.
There's a lot of anxiety. Is this World War III? Is this Armageddon? So it's really since October 7th, that's where I've noticed. So for me, it's been a little bit more associated with really the horror that's going on over there. And now it's kind of, I don't want to make a political statement, but most of my friends are very sensitive, and just the awareness of this horror that's going on in Gaza is really impacting a lot of my empathic friends. And I guess for anybody who's listening who's empathic, which is probably everybody who's listening, because of who the audience might be, I believe that empaths not only feel their own personal pain, their ancestral pain, but the pain of the planet, the pain that's going on. And there's a real horror show going on in Gaza right now. And it's horrific. And it's also especially, I think there's a lot of guilt that we as Americans, regardless of who we vote for, our country is supporting or has been supporting a genocide. And I think that's impacting a lot of people on different levels.
Definitely.
And I hope that I'm not making a political statement, I'm making a human statement.
Yeah, it's about humanity, really, and how can we maintain our humanity with all of that going on?
Yeah, well, and the reality is, as long as we continue to allow the mind to dictate the reality that we live in, we will always be living in error. Right? And so when we talk about wars and we talk about trying to, dominate another person, group of people, whatever that is, whenever that comes up, we're looking at error. This is not how we're meant to be in the world. Right? And so that error alone is a devastating thing for the world and for every aspect of those of us who are on it.
I have a question for you, Jennifer, along these lines. My understanding is that Pluto, which takes a long time because it's so far away, moved out of Capricorn into Aquarius. We all got excited. But then it's back in Capricorn for a few months and then finally goes into Aquarius. And if my understanding is correct, Capricorn, and by the way, my sun is in Capricorn, but Capricorn is kind of old paradigm, rigid structure, and Aquarius, of course, is new. And so we maybe are back in a short little window of old paradigm before emerging into an Aquarian time. Is that accurate? And anything that you can add to that?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because Pluto's all about our transformation. And the reality is, in order for us to have transformation, we have to go through some pretty difficult things. And that's a really hard concept. For the human design piece, we look at Pluto right now, and it's in the gate 41. And Pluto, because it travels so slowly, stays there for a while. And the gate 41 is about the shadow of fantasy, right? And what does that mean? It's that wheel of samsara, right? Like we're constantly going around that wheel, and we're not allowing ourselves to really be present with what's actually happening. We're in that place of, really having to come to terms with what we want to happen and how to move that forward. So for those who were on when we were at the beginning of the year, we talked about this gate quite a bit because it's the gate that holds the gene code, right? So 41 is really about what we do right now is setting precedent for how we move forward. So when we talk about this huge transformational energy that can come from Pluto, we're given an opportunity right now to make a new start code on and to do something different. But whether we choose to do that or not is yet to be seen, right? Because right now the world is still on this wheel and it's continuing its patterns and it's not making a new start. But this is a perfect time to have that break and to change that.
And that's where all of us come in, right? It's our job to be there to guide, to answer questions, and just to be here and raise the vibration. Because, Wayne Dyer said one high vibration person can change the vibration of 20,000 people.
Yeah.
So if we can all do that.
And here's the thing, though. when we think about our genetic code as a human race, as an individual, what that actually means, Scott, you were saying about how we're not just dealing with, here, we're dealing with all of our past life stuff. We're dealing with all of our
Yes.
ancestral stuff. We're dealing with all of that. And over half of our genetic code comes from earlier evolutions, from other organisms, from other aspects of what we are. And so when we think about trying to change that, we have to recognize the pace that happens in, right? We can make significant changes at any given moment, but in order for that to really become exponential, it does take time, right? And we have that healing, and this is the beauty of time not being linear, which is phenomenal,
Exactly.
because we have that capacity that in this moment, if I'm going to do something different, I'm going to change this, I'm going to bring about a new start codon. In that moment, now I can send that back. I can send that through my lives. I can send that forward. I can send it out to the world, right? And I can hold space for that new evolution. But I have to be willing to take that stand and say, no, enough. I'm going to do something new. And I'm going to not just keep it in my mind as this fantasy thing, but I'm going to really figure out, how can I bring that forward in my daily actions? How can I bring that forward in everything that I do, in every interaction that I have, so that I can really, live this gift of anticipation to actually see it come to fruition and embody this siddhi of emanation, right? It's going to just emanate from everything that I am now, because I'm making that change at a cellular level.
Well, and there's a lot of times we really need to think about that, and the embodiment, right, of embodying those behaviors. I know with my clients, we have many conversations about, making decisions out of love instead of out of fear. For that reason, and how that's one of those simplest way that we can start to bring and embody some of those changes, is making decisions out of love instead of out of fear. Love for others and love for self.
Beautifully stated.
So that's one of those ways. And then, just being kind to each other, releasing judgment. These are the ways we can learn to embody the way you're speaking about, right, Jen? I think that's how you embody it in the everyday life.
Yeah.
It's those little things, showing compassion for others, releasing judgment.
Beautiful.
And you're the love coach, so what does the love coach have to say about that?
Well, it's very alive for me right now, because exactly what you just said. So one of the most popular guests on my show is a wonderful couple called the Twin Ray, Shakina Mons and Anta Jean. They're beautiful. And I've gotten to know them very well. I've lived with them. When I've been in Ashland, Oregon, I stay with them. I've worked with them for 4 years. I've been on retreat with them. I've seen them in all situations, especially living with them. They are always loving, kind, compassionate, fun, and wise. Always. First thing in the morning, late at night, dealing with a crisis, whatever's going on, they're really consistently the same. And they're beautiful. And last week, a very vicious, malicious article came out about them, written by a woman who has made it her job to go after spiritual teachers. She has attacked Byron Katie. She's attacked Muji. She's attacked many of our teachers that we respect. And she's really quite vicious in her approach. And it's her full-time gig, so she really goes for it. And so she launched her newest attack on them. And so I chose to create my own video, not speaking for the Twin Ray, although I talk to them every day, especially this week with all this going on, but my own, just out of my own heart. And the video was very loving and just not addressing the allegations, but just my own personal experience after 4 years. And now this woman who goes after people has come after me and made a very obnoxious video where she took excerpts of one of my Global Peace Tribe shows and made fun of it, made fun of, people singing and dancing, but then tries to make it look like they're idiots. And so it's interesting. And it's been a while since I've had a significant event like that. I'm pretty blessed. I hang out with really lovely people. We don't do that. We don't collude. We don't talk negative about other people. So it's rare for me to have that experience. And then for it to be happening publicly, it's like, oh, wow. And a lot of friends, oh, my God, Scott, how are you doing? What's going on? And there is that part of me that wants to, because there have been other people who have written about her and how malicious she is. So there's that out there on the internet. And there's a part of me that wants to point to her and fight back. Mm-hmm. But so far, I've pretty much taken a higher road of, hey, let's not do that. Let's not throw stones. It's good to be discerning. And not every teacher is for everyone. And absolutely, there's no doubt there are gurus of the past who used their fame, their power, their talents in inappropriate ways. We all know that, and we've all been through that. So no more false prophets, no more messiahs, no more gurus, having sex with teenagers. But this particular couple, I know them, and they are clean. Have they made mistakes? Probably, because they're human beings. They're highly advanced human beings, but they've only made mistakes. So, let's learn how to discern without judgment. How to say, no, that's not for me, without having to make it bad or stupid or wrong or evil.
Yeah.
And let's look at, am I collecting evidence to support my existing belief? Or am I really open-hearted? Einstein, and I'm paraphrasing, but Einstein has a beautiful quote that says the true measure, or something along the lines of, the true measure of intelligence is how quickly we can change our beliefs. And all of us have a tendency to collect evidence to support the beliefs that we hold near and dear. Fanatics, people that become the highest level of fanaticism, would be a suicide bomber. It's someone who has spent years collecting evidence to prove that the people he's going to kill are evil. Right? That's like the extreme of an example. But we all have to look at, where do we collect evidence to support our beliefs, including myself in this process, and where are we really open-hearted, and where are we open-minded, and where are we willing to listen to a belief different from our own with curiosity, as opposed to with judgment. So it's very alive for me right now. I produced 2 videos in response to it that have received thousands of views now, and comments are coming in, and that's a big thing that's in my world right now. So yes, how can we do all of this? How can we manage these differences? And especially in this election year, where there are forces, and now is the time for us to do everything we can for red people to embrace blue, and for blue to embrace red, and ideally for us all kind of become purple. I notice you've got a lot of purple in your banners. Here's to purple.
I love it. Well, and it's interesting because, you're talking about like Pluto and Capricorn, right? And the transformative energy that comes from that. And it's really about power struggle.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we look at the energy that's here, it's about trying to bring that truth about, right? What, can we use the discernment that you're talking about? And can we recognize when there is this kind of attack happening, what is that, didn't Tanis and I say this all the time? What is this doing for me, as opposed to, why is this happening to me? And being able to really, hone in on the transformative energy that can come from that. And I love, love, love this idea of, taking it from that compassionate stance and just being able to say, I don't have to go there, even though a part of me maybe wants to. I don't have to go there or retaliate in any way, and Pluto energy and Capricorn is so much about these choices, right? And how do we navigate them in a way that's going to bring us where we want to go?
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to be looking at this thing of releasing grief and recognizing judgments that are held against us, whether they're true or not, and being able to look at, the perceived shaming of you're not good enough, you're not a good spiritual teacher, you're not, this or that, and being able to go, okay, I'm not for you.
Right.
Exactly.
Anything about anything else. If I'm doing what I'm being told to do, that's all I can do.
And really, it says a lot about her in that situation, right? And I feel bad for her because when I say it says a lot about her, it says a lot about her wounding
Yeah.
if she's doing that.
Well, yeah, and that is her background. She grew up, I guess, as a child in a cult. She's a transgender male to female. So, clearly there's a lot of, in her own personal life, a lot of, I'd say, confusion, and trying to, make sense of what probably has been a lot of hurt and wounding. But what's sad is that she does it with a lot of, it's very malicious and, no objectivity, but only collecting evidence and distorting it to support her story because she's trying to turn everyone into a false prophet. She's trying to turn everyone into a artist.
Right.
And
And that's just, we're not all the same
no, and it's
at all.
it's classic projection.
Well, and
Very
that's
much.
it, right? So, going back to that idea, Tana said about like her wounding, to really understand, like what this Pluto energy in Capricorn is doing to her. Holy moly, right? To have her be going against all of these people and to put all of that energy into that, right? The inner turmoil that must be there to have to project that out all of the time, right? So it's and it's interesting, right? Because like we can talk about this on this big scale level, but even just seeing how it comes up day to day right now with clients, right? And the energy that's there, in my own experience, right, with kids and everything else, right? This honing in on the injustice or honing in on what they think isn't correct, honing in on their own wounding being triggered, and then just on everybody else.
Yeah.
Right?
I've come across that with clients and with students lately. It's been something that's definitely come up, and it's just about holding space for them so that they can express. Because
we're setting a boundary and saying enough is enough.
Yeah. There's both, right? There is a line there.
Yeah.
It's making the choice not to have that energy in your field as well, right?
Yeah.
Being able to hold that space and say, okay, I get you're going through this. I'm here to hold space as long as you're respectful, and you're coming at this from a place of I need to express, and that's different from being malicious.
Yes.
Malicious just requires boundaries in terms of our own, and but Jen and I do a lot of warrior work, and we can't fight dark with more dark. It has to come from the light, right, which is love. And so you just a dark room, how do you fight the dark in the room? You turn a light on. So that's coming at all of this kind of darker, denser energy is really about shedding light on it. And I think for a number of years we've been doing that in terms of how do we make the world change into a place where we have more light. And well, all of that stuff has to come to the surface in order for us to be able to release that, which is what clients do on a regular basis with all of us, right? They have to have those light bulb moments where they go, oh, okay, that maybe wasn't a great choice that I made. So that has to come to the surface in order for you to give it self-compassion, or we have to have our stuff come up, give it self-compassion in order for us to release it and move forward without that density. And I think that's happening on a global scale as well. Certainly with all all of the stuff that's coming up with the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, all of the conflicts that are happening, in the Middle East, like all of that is all symptoms of sort of this underlying stuff that's needing to come up for us to clear. We need to be able to see it and say, okay, we don't want that. If we don't know it's there, we can't make our own opinion on it and choose love out of fear. We don't know there's a decision to be made. And so sometimes bringing it to the awareness is how we start the way forward in love.
Absolutely. And that's, I think we all know what's happening is all the stuff that's been under the surface, all the corruption, and I'll just say the shadow side. And all of us have a shadow side.
Absolutely.
And all of us, we're all at different stages of managing our shadow side. And some people are in a really good place of having done the work, acknowledged who the shadow is, working with it, and other people are still in the stage of being exposed.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting dynamic that's happening.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting when we talk about, shadow and looking at this whole idea of light and shadow, right? Like, we only have shadows when we have light, right? So we really have to recognize this point that, we all have these aspects within us. Mm-hmm. And the more that we can acknowledge that and embrace that, the more power we have to work with that and to do something about it, right? The more that we deny it, the more disempowered we are and the more power we give to it, because we're not even acknowledging that it's a part of us.
Yeah, beautifully stated.
Shadow for me might not be what you would consider shadow in yourself either, because perception plays a big role in all of this, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because personal integrity is one thing. My integrity might be to be true to who I truly am. It doesn't necessarily mean it's what you think is right or what they think is right, but having personal integrity is about being true to who that authentic self is within.
I really like that you're saying that, and I agree. And it's a tough one because sometimes our personal integrity can fall into self-righteousness.
Yes.
And so it's really tricky. It's like what is my personal integrity? But then how do I make choices based on my personal integrity? How do those choices impact others? Yeah. And that's a razor's edge sometimes to look at and to be an awareness of.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, again, in light of the energy that we're in right now, because it brings us to this place of being able to go, okay, right? Can I be in my own integrity? And can I allow you to be who you are with whatever it is you're doing and whatever it is you're going through? Can I, have that bit of separation, that step back, and be able to go, okay, can my connection here keep me within my integrity? And what do I need to do in order to stay there, right? And if it's a matter of, somehow, being disintegral, not allowing ourselves to honor what's true for us, then we need to decide, is this connection really serving us? Or do we need to let it go? But it doesn't mean that I have to make the other person be or do anything different. I have to decide what I'm okay with within my space, and then I have to move from that place.
I love what you're saying. A lot of times, of course, as coaches, you probably do too, we talk about, okay, when has the relationship fallen into unhealthy toxicity? When is it, the couple becomes so enmeshed? When do we cross the boundary? And my standard response is we cross the line when we step outside of our personal integrity in order to make another person happy or to avoid them being unhappy.
Yeah.
But then you have to know what your personal integrity is. And that comes up a lot, especially when I'm working with couples or even friends that have a beloved that has an issue with alcohol or drugs. And I'm not making a statement right now against. I've had plenty of wonderful experiences with alcohol and drugs. So I'm not making a judgment about it. But I think most of us have at some point had to set a boundary with someone who's not managing the relationship to alcohol or the relationship to drugs in a way that is not having a hurtful impact on us. And then you have to hit that, that you have to have those tough conversations and those tough moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's where that test of, okay, what's my personal integrity, what I'm willing to tolerate versus, no, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that people struggle with. Where is that? How much of myself can I compromise and still maintain my own integrity and who I am in a relationship? Because there is, I mean, anytime you live with anybody, there has to be some give and take, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so where is that line for, okay, this is okay, but this is not? And really, I mean, we're all human. This is what we are here to do, is learn all these lessons about, and we have to go through the experiences to say, oh, okay, yeah, I really didn't like it when you did that. But being able to talk about it and then have the other person be receptive about, oh, okay, well, how can we do it differently? What's that piece that where we can find that piece where you're comfortable, I'm comfortable, and we're both still sitting in our own personal integrity.
Well, and that's about being able to sit in our wounding and find that gap, right? Where we've recognized the trigger is there, but we're going to take that deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to go, my love for you and for trying to work through this situation is going to supersede my desire to go down this rabbit hole with my trigger right now. Right? But that's a very, very difficult spot to catch.
Yeah.
Right? And so again, that energy of really finding that gap, sitting in that silence of going, okay, I see all of the things that are happening within me, and I'm going to be okay. I'm going to let myself sit with this for a minute, right? So that I can actually show up.
Because it's all energy. All the emotions are energy. So sometimes I don't feel very good. So sitting with it can be kind of, I have to sit with this feeling in my stomach, or that heaviness in my heart, or that, a lot of people are afraid of that physical part of what we call emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to express it.
Another piece that I'd love to bring into this particular part of the conversation, I'm really appreciating both of you. I like the way you both think and express yourself. So it's cool to be in this conversation with you. When we're managing differences with someone, please always remember to differentiate between the being and their behavior. Yes. Our problem is with the choice that they've made or their behavior, not with who they are as a being. But so often it's communicated in a way that makes the person wrong as a being, as opposed to being specific about the behavior or the choice they made that impacted you.
Yeah, I love that.
I think as a parent, that was something that I was very aware of as a parent, making sure, I don't like this behavior. I will always love you. I have unconditional love. This behavior is not so good. We need to change this one.
You know what's interesting? Mothers do learn that the fastest.
Yes.
They don't always apply it to their husband. It's a lot easier to apply to a cute little baby. Then, then as the kid gets older, once it hits the teenage years, it's not so easy to apply it either.
It does get more difficult. No, that's true. I mean, we do have to manage our relationships because, of course, my husband wouldn't take kindly to me treating him like a child either. So, it has to be done with respect and respect of the differences in the relationship as well, in terms of that.
Yeah. But also when we look at our triggers and our wounding, right? Our kids can definitely set us off, but it's not as personal with our children in the beginning as it is in our other relationships, right? We recognize our role with them to help guide them and to help them understand. Whereas with other adults in our life, we get into this mentality of, well, you should know better. Well, you should do this. Well, why can't you do that? Right? Like we get these kind of preconceived notions that we just assume as an adult, you should have it together. And why are we even going through this? Right? To be able to take that step back and go, wait a minute, this compassion and this love that I have for this child, I need to bring forward to all of my relationships. This is not just,
Exactly.
One thing that as a coach, I see all the time that I've kind of learned how to do is to see the little boy inside that 50-year-old man, to see the scared little girl inside the 45-year-old woman. And if we can all remember to do that, because when we get triggered, quite often our scared little kid comes out. Now, scared little kid comes out and the person still is experienced like as a dragon or as a scary person. It's just a scared little boy inside.
Yeah, who's just acting out in the only way they know how.
My mentor was Marshall. One of my mentors, my primary mentor, was Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Compassionate Communication. And he often told the story of one of his teachers, one of his compassionate communication teachers who was pretty far along, who was about to be raped. A man had a knife against her throat. And she looks him in the eyes and remembers what we just talked about. She looks him in the eyes and she says, "You must be so lonely." He drops the knife, breaks into tears, and she ends up cradling him. Right? And that story is so vivid because you can't get into a more frightening situation than about to be raped with a knife to your throat. And to see how by remembering even in that moment that she could make that choice to see the scared little boy who's just so lonely and so desperate for connection. That story has just really stuck with me I think Marshall looked at me 25 years ago, but it's a powerful, hopefully we never have to, play level. But if we can remember it, if we can remember, okay, even in the moment of fear, what can we find that unmet need that's driving this behavior of the other person?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the genius of Marshall Rosenberg, is that underneath, he had a wonderful quote, even the most horrific crimes are tragic attempts to get precious needs met.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
And that
it's
doesn't mean
very sad when we see that stuff, right? It's really sad when we see those horrific crimes, but it does come down to human needs not being met, or hurt little children acting out from within.
Absolutely. I mean, I can think of certain political figures that you look at them and you just see this hurt little boy wanting daddy's love, or wanting their nation's love, who will do just remarkably unethical things to try and get that love or that attention.
Well, and you can see it as the child, right? When we talk about like functions of behavior, if we really break it down to the behavioral sciences, right?
Yeah.
That need for attention.
Exactly.
And that willingness, any attention is still good attention because it's getting attention, right? And so...
Speaking of attention, I want to give some attention to the people writing in the chat box.
Yes, you've got some in there.
Thank you, everybody, for your wonderful comments.
I know, I'm reading them as we go, and I'm just like, yes.
I told them, but I didn't want to interrupt the conversation because I was like enthralled in the conversation. So let's have a little chat here about this stuff. So we had a beautiful comment from Hidden City about this conversation. She's from Washington. Thank you. And respect for each other's processes. Very good. Yes, definitely. Kaylee says she's going to re-listen to this one. Good messages. That's awesome. Hypnicity says shine your light. When we were talking about the child part, raising our kids, right?
Yeah, letting them know they're loved no matter what. It's behaviors that we don't always like.
Yeah, exactly. Baby. Hey, Jack. Jacqueline is one of our teachers with the Academy as well.
Mhm.
Don't let shoulds rest on shoulders. Ooh, I like that.
That's fantastic, hypnicity.
Great, thank you. Couldn't be more true.
Mhm.
Find the human in the being. Yes, absolutely. That's how we find compassion, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and we have Gerald on. Hello, Gerald. Welcome.
Gerald.
Welcome. Gerald is a guest with us here once a month. He comes on. He's with us once a month. So great to have you
I
here.
guess if I'm wondering if anybody has any questions for us.
Yeah. Are you okay to do a few minutes longer?
Yeah, I turned into a pumpkin at 3:30 is my next appointment, but I want to walk my dog before that. So
Okay.
maybe another 5 minutes, 7 minutes, if anybody has questions.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions? Let them chime in on that. Do you want to pick a card, maybe? Jen?
Yeah, well, Kaylee asked if we were going to do it. So at the end of each talk, I pull a card from Seeds from the Sacred Feminine.
Mhm.
And so let's see. While we're waiting for some questions. Oh, I think,
Yeah, Kaylee's heading out by the sounds of it.
all right.
Gonna listen back. Awesome. Thanks for
Fantastic.
joining
Pulling your
us.
card for you. Let's see. What do we need to do this week? What energies do we need to bring in? What activities do we need to do? Oh, there we go.
Kaylee has just started her own channel too this week. She had
That's
her first,
awesome.
her first launch thing last night. Woo Woo Wonderment.
Feel your pulse.
Ah,
How fitting is that for all of this, right? Really being able to feel our pulse, to know what's going on inside of us, to connect with that. All right, I'm ready.
something to think about there, Scott.
All right. While you're thinking about that one, I'll read this and then we can come back for it. Okay. It says, are you feeling resentful and forgetting your joy, grandchild? It is time to recount with the sacred feminine and give thanks for your life. You are a miracle of creation. All of life celebrates your ups and downs, for you are alive. Feel your pulse and connect with life blood flowing through your veins. Your heartbeat resonates with the heartbeat of the Sacred Mother. Enjoy that reunion. When you were born into this world through the womb of your mother, your first memories were filled with the sound of her heartbeat. Remember that sacred sound. For that life-giving pulse reverberates through you, your mother, and all of creation. Get quiet for a moment and listen to the silence between the beats. So this transit right now, silence.
And so much of what we talked about.
So much of what we talked about. Lay your fingers on your inner wrist and see if you can slow down your heartbeat. Your physical body will follow your pure intentions. In this empty space, commune with the Sacred Mother and remember your joy. Recognize the power rushing through your body and honor the life force flowing through your veins. You are a profound miracle. Never forget.
Absolutely, each and every one of you is. No matter who you are, what you've done, where you live, any of that. Each and every one of you has that beautiful divine spark.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had one about resources. I'm not sure the PNW. That's not an acronym I'm familiar with. Are you guys familiar with that one?
No.
In the Pacific Northwest? Like, are we looking at location?
Maybe.
Because didn't Hypnicity say that she said her location?
So
I would guess
Washington,
it is. Pacific Northwest. I bet that's it.
yeah, Pacific.
That would be my only guess. That's my only context for it. Yeah, I don't particularly know. Of specifically, but I don't know. Tanis, do you have connections there, or I don't know, Scott, if you have.
If you come to our Global Peace, come join the Global Peace Tribe. Go to globalpeacetribe.com. Come on into any of our Awakening World broadcasts. Because a lot of our members are in the Pacific Northwest. We've got about a dozen regulars that are in Seattle, Vancouver, Victoria. We have a really strong group of really cool, wonderful people that you can meet that are all Pacific Northwesters. Eleanor Joy, who's always on and always leading the music and dancing. And so, yeah, definitely go to globalpeacetribe.com, join us, come into the Awakening World, remind me that you're on this show, send me a chat, and I'll connect you to the Pacific Northwest people.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So she says she'll check it out. She's also an energy healer, so she works in the field.
Great. Yeah, well, send me some information about yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. You can find him on Facebook or on the Global Peace Tribe, right? You can send it through there.
Yeah, you can, ideally join Global Peace Tribe. But you can also privately message me on Facebook Messenger. I'm the only Scott Catamas on planet Earth, so it's easy to find me.
And his links for Global Peace Tribe are...
That's right. Thank you very much. There they are.
And a big hello to Rossi. We're just kind of finishing up, so thanks for joining us. Jen, what have you got going on this week?
Oh, golly, I don't know.
No? Nothing big this week?
I don't think I think we're going to be doing some recordings for some stuff moving forward, but they're not going to be live just yet. So there's a couple of those happening this week, but they won't probably come live until early next month.
Yeah, I would say that's probably accurate.
Oh, and
we have
we have Woo on Saturday. So if you're in the Ottawa area, the Woo Infinity Summit is happening, and Tanis and I are both going to be speaking there and have booths there. So come find us, see us, enjoy with us.
Yeah.
And then also for Twillow's membership page. Yep. Remember, every month, Tanis and I started doing card readings. So on YouTube, you'll be able to see the first 6 cards of a 22 card reading for each month. And if you want to have the extended version, join the free membership.
Yes.
Free membership. And that's another fantastic resource that will be, the beginning of the month. So soon.
Yeah, soon. Next day or so, for sure. Yeah. And I'm on twice this week with Ramsey. So I have open mic with the UK this week at 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. And then Ramsey and I are also on with Fogo, actually, Kaylee, on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern for the open mic. Not the UK version, the North American version. So we have lots of stuff going on in terms of that. And would you like to share when your shows are this week, Scott?
Yeah, do I have the ability to screen share? I'm not so used to...
you can. The present on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
If you click that, and it'll allow you to...
Share screen. Share screen. Window. Okay. I should have done the... I've got it up on my computer. Mm-hmm. Entire screen. Window. Chrome tab. Well, I'm so used to Zoom.
Zoom's a little easier for sure.
Zoom is a lot easier. Yeah, I've got posters that I would love to show. I guess okay. I'll just speak it. This Wednesday night, our shows are always on Wednesdays and on Saturdays. This Wednesday night show is all about relationship. And then on Wednesday night, May 15th, is going to be a very special evening as we have Marianne Williamson, and we'll have an entire conversation with Marianne Williamson. So, I'm sorry that I'm not figuring out how to show my screen sharing was canceled. Anyway, I guess another time.
I'm on your events page. Is that where it is?
You know what I can do? Why don't I can put them on our messenger thread. Since you can access that real quickly, and maybe then you can post it. So here is the poster for Marianne, and here is the poster for our next show, which is on Wednesday night. So there's a pair of posters that I just put into our Facebook Messenger thread. Maybe you can pull those and show those. And Jennifer, I'm really appreciating meeting you. Of course, I got to know Denise previously, but I really like the way you think and expressed yourself again. So thank you for that.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to connecting more. I'll be checking out your stuff as well.
Yeah, and let's privately connect. Maybe I'd love to have you on the show sometime.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
As you can see, like the show we're doing on Wednesday night, would probably be a show you would have fit right into, because it's all about managing our family ties. And I've got different relationship coaches and counselors on that show talking about that topic. So,
okay, yeah.
As everybody can see, that's the Marianne Williamson one. So it's easy. Just go.
Oh, did you just?
Sorry. That would be my lack of accessibility.
It's like Hollywood Squares. We're just like
I'm just moving us around. Sorry, guys.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, come join Global Peace Tribe, everybody. It's easy, and you come into the Zoom rooms, meet all of our guests, talk directly with people like Marianne Williamson. We have amazing people on our show. Matt Kahn, Deepak Chopra, Michael Beckwith are just some of the incredible people that have been regulars on our show. So come and join us.
Awesome. And we thank you all very much for joining us. It's been such an honor having you on, Scott. Thank you so much. And happy to have you back whenever you'd like to join us and have more conversation. And
I'll look forward to that.
Awesome. And we'll see the rest of you all very soon. Have a great week, everyone.